I'm Michael McKee, the International Economics and Policy Correspondent for Bloomberg News, and I am delighted to be your MC for this evening for the Foreign Policy Association's 2025 Corporate Dinner. Throughout my career, I've reported from around the world on the forces that are shaping global economies and monetary policy, trade, diplomacy, and corporate leadership. It's a privilege to be here with the Foreign Policy Association tonight as we celebrate individuals whose contributions reflect these values at the highest levels. So to all of our distinguished honorees, our honored guests, and members of the diplomatic, business, and academic communities, welcome to the program this evening. Before we get started, I just have one request, and that is everybody silence your phones so that while we're in the middle of the program, nothing goes off. I have asked President Trump not to tweet while we are here, so that we can enjoy dinner without getting all upset about something. Let's begin the evening with a short film about the history and mission of the Foreign Policy Association.
It began as an ideal, shared by visionaries who saw a world where American foreign policy was debated not only in think tanks and universities, but in community centers, libraries, and homes across the country.
Klamath Falls has what is called a Great Decisions Group. There are about 15,000 of them across the country.
Military action is the only action that keeps the communists contained anywhere.
Would you go to war over Vietnam and Laos?
I certainly would do anything to find one all-out war over there.
They imagined an organization that would inform us all to shape the future. An organization dedicated to gathering the best research and offering the facts of world issues without bias. Knowledge made accessible and shared to change our world for the better.
Tonight I am speaking as a guest of the Foreign Policy Association, a nationwide organization, a distinguished organization.
People keep inquiring whether I would do it all over again. My answer is yes. The problem is no one has asked me.
I would like to express my appreciation to the Foreign Policy Association for helping bring this group together today.
Today, the FPA's flagship Great Decisions program is the largest discussion program on global affairs. Each week at community centers nationwide, participants read the Great Decisions briefing book and watch the television series before discussing and debating the most critical global issues facing America. In high schools and universities across the country, graduates of FPA's Teacher Training Institute design Great Decisions courses for their students. In their homes, millions of Americans watch the Emmy-nominated Great Decisions television series on public television, delivering essential background and diverse perspectives, challenging viewers to make their own great decisions.
I am very happy to have participated in the Great Decision programs and the work of the Foreign Policy Association. There needs to be more education in terms of what is going on abroad in order to fully understand how it affects our own people.
And in New York City, the FPA continues to attract world leaders to engage its members and the public.
I think this organization can make a major contribution to fulfilling our responsibilities as a people.
I have been for many years, long before I was in the United States Senate, a great admirer of this institution and what it's done and what it does. And I think the role it will continue to play in a very complicated world.
Through its balanced, nonpartisan programs and publications, the FPA encourages Americans to discuss and debate world issues and to participate in the foreign policy process. For a century, the Foreign Policy Association has operated under the mantra that a properly functioning democracy depends on an informed citizenry, a beacon that will illuminate our next century. Thank you for your support and for your participation.
I think we can all agree that we need this association and its goals more than ever these days. It's now my pleasure to introduce and bring to the stage Donna Dillon Manning. She is the Director of Foreign Policy Association's board, to introduce our first honoree, Faiza Saeed, Presiding Partner at Cravath, Swaine Moore.
Thank you very much. I have the privilege of introducing one of our first awardees, and I think you will agree that she is someone who really should be recognized. I was very pleased to be asked to introduce an extraordinary woman, Faiza Saeed, who has had an unbelievable career and life, and including being the lead partner, the presiding partner at Cravath, Swaine Moore LLP law firm. Since joining Cravath in 1991, Ms. Saeed has forged an extraordinary career advising global public companies, boards of directors, and special committees on landmark mergers and acquisition, corporate governance, and complex crisis management. That seems to cover everything. Her groundbreaking leadership since 2016 has propelled Cravath to new heights of excellence and innovation, reflecting her unwavering commitment to fairness, collaboration, and visionary strategy. Beyond her pivotal role within the legal world, Ms. Saeed plays a vital civic role also. She serves as a trustee of the Paley Center, the New York Presbyterian Hospital, and the William Nelson Cromwell Foundation, and holds leadership positions on the boards of the Partnership for New York City and the Paley Foundation. As a respected member of the Council on Foreign Relations and the Economic Club of New York, she shapes conversations at the intersection of law, business, and global affairs. Her influence resonates deeply across the media and entertainment industries, where she has been lauded as a principal architect of modern media landscape. In 2024, the Paley Center for Media bestowed upon her its highest honor, the Paley Honors Award, recognizing her unmatched contributions to media and business worldwide. Clients and colleagues alike revere her as a trusted advisor, championing success that is ethical, shared, and enduring. A graduate of Harvard Law School and recipient of a BA with the highest distinction from the University of California, Berkeley, Ms. Saeed embodies the highest ideals of legal responsibility, public service, and global leadership. Please join me in welcoming Faiza Saeed, a trailblazer, shaping the future of law, media, and international relations. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Donna. Thank you to the Foreign Policy Association for this honor. Your mission has been a pillar of the rules-based order that emerged from the carnage of World War II, and for 80 years nurtured free markets and liberal democratic ideals while preventing another global war. As the sun feels like it may be setting on that order, and the durability of those ideals is again in doubt, we look to history for guidance. In March of 1938, the Economic Club of New York, led by Paul Cravath, convened to discuss the outlook for business, but really to debate the gathering threat of fascism. The speakers included Alexander Kerensky, leader of Russia's brief democratic government before the Bolsheviks seized power. Kerensky described the 20th century to that point as the age of the political man, whose fanatical rejection of liberty and freedom and rebellion against cultural progress was destroying the foundation of economic welfare and setting the world back to medieval conditions of barbarism and endless conflict. He warned that the resulting totalitarian regimes of the left and the right would reduce the individual to a powerless pawn, and he foresaw the rise of a bureaucratic elite wielding unchecked power. He also indicted those industrialists who supported authoritarian rule as a means of restoring their control over the economy. Kerensky concluded with a call to action for freedom's believers to shed old prejudices, unite, and with creativity to match the determination of the authoritarians, defend the cause of liberty. In the early decades of a new century, we again find ourselves treading old ground. Today, the contest occurs against a backdrop of algorithms and AI, with machines on the cusp of being more efficient than humans in virtually all endeavors. Machines are innately authoritarian, devoid of empathy, and unable to concern themselves with moral nuance. The business environment producing many technological advances is also often autocratic, centered on the instinct, ability, and charisma of a singular individual. For the liberal democratic order to win requires not only addressing its governance failures, but also a cultural renewal. In his classic Wires and Lights in a Box speech, Edward R. Murrow invoked the ability of television to illuminate and inspire, and lamented its unrealized potential in the battle against ignorance, intolerance, and indifference. While Murrow focused on journalism as a path to enlightenment, that golden age of entertainment was also infused with civic values, integrity and idealism, embrace of our founding principles, and a reverence for the international order. It was intentional and reflective of a time when leaders in both the public and the private spheres did not take for granted that our democracy would endure or that global war would be avoided. They saw not merely the power of narrative to forge the bonds of civic cohesion around democratic ideals, but its necessity. We lost that sense of impermanence and the imperative of such constant renewal when we won the Cold War. For the proponents of democratic values to be victorious once again will require that that collective responsibility be rediscovered within all our institutions. Thank you again for this honor.
We've had a wonderful dinner, and I'm sure you're all very full, and you've had great conversations. And we want to get on with our program now so we can move along. We're running a little behind, which I don't think anybody's going to mind. I did check, and there have been no tweets from the president. So the country's in good shape for the next hour or so. I'm delighted now to welcome Henry Fernandez. He's the chairman of the Foreign Policy Association and chairman and CEO of MSCI, to introduce our second honoree today, Carlos Cuerpo, Spain's Minister of Economy, Trade and Business.
Thank you, Mike. It's good to have you here. Put my glasses on. We have a lot of light coming this way, but it's okay. So I hope you're having fun. In our table, we're having a blast. So we're definitely not looking forward to tweets, but we did solve a number of problems already, especially the Spanish-U.S. issues with the defense spending and the tariffs. So let me first extend my congratulations to our honorees this evening. You know, Faiza Saeed, Peter Young, and of course, Carlos Cuerpo. So on behalf of everyone at the FPA, it really is an honor and a privilege to have all of you here and to be in the presence of these incredibly accomplished leaders of the world that are more than deserving to get the FPA medal. And it is my privilege to introduce our second honoree in a few minutes. But before I do that, I wanted to take this opportunity to underscore the importance of the FPA mission amid the current global turmoil. And my comments may be a little sombering, but I hope that they don't end that well. But let's give you my perspective here. For the past 2 weeks, we have witnessed the difficult reminder that we're living through arguably one of the most dangerous moments in world affairs since the collapse of the Soviet Union. And that is no exaggeration, and I'm going to give you some facts about that. So clearly everyone has been following the news from Iran and Israel, and the older news about Ukraine and Russia, which is a conflict that doesn't seem to end. There's not a lot more that I can tell you or give you a perspective or insights about those here tonight. But I would like to put the Middle East wars in a broader geopolitical context. To do that, let me share a few numbers that you may not have heard. At my table, Peter Young kept saying to me, "What are you going to tell me that I don't know?" So I hope that this is something, Peter, that you don't know. So every year, the Institute for Economics and Peace, based in Sydney, Australia, compiles a global peace index to measure the relative peacefulness of the world. So the 2025 index came out earlier this month. And it reports that there are now more active state-based conflicts, as opposed to just terrorism or individuals, but state-based conflicts around the world than at any point since 1945. They report that there are currently 59 such conflicts currently raging in the world, and that there are 78 countries engaged in a conflict beyond their borders. Since this is so cheerful news, I'm going to repeat it again. There are 59 active state-based conflicts, the most since World War II, and 78 countries engaged in some of those conflicts beyond their borders. Last year, the total impact of violence on the world economy was nearly $20 trillion US. in purchasing power parity terms, not just nominal, but purchasing power parity terms. This amount is equal to about 12% of global GDP today, again, in purchasing power parity terms. So a lot of those numbers reinforce the urgent need for all Americans and other citizens of the world, of all backgrounds, to develop a deeper and more substantive understanding of U.S. foreign policy, their country's foreign policy, and the role that we all play in this global village. So in that sense, a lot of these facts reinforce the tremendous value of the work that my colleagues at the Foreign Policy Association do, and the ability for us to be a convening power to gather in events like this in a non-partisan way and have discussions and debates about the issues of today. You clearly saw in the film our flagship program, which is Great Decisions, which is basically a way to, with a lot of policymakers and pundits, to create positions on different issues that confront us today, and then expose them in a grassroots way to as many citizens in as many communities as possible in the United States. So that work is much more important today than it's ever been. These numbers that I described also highlight the challenges facing global policymakers who are trying to strengthen international cooperation on the biggest economic, social, and environmental challenges of our time. One of those policymakers is here today as our honoree. His Excellency Carlos Cuerpo serves as Minister of Economy, Trade, and Business for the government of Spain, a position that he took in December of 2023 when he succeeded Nadia Calviño, who we honor at this FPA event a few years back. And if Carlos and his colleagues were paying a little bit of attention to the film, you probably saw me giving the medal to Nadia in the back end of that film. So you could tell her she made the video clip. In his role, Minister Cuerpo designs and implements policies for continental Europe's fourth largest economy. A lot of people in the United States think of Spain as a great tourist destination, great wine, great food, great people, but they don't realize that it's the fourth largest economy in the continent of Europe, excluding the UK. According to the magazine The Economist, Spain was, quote, the best performing rich economy in the world in 2024, end quote, based on GDP, the stock market performance, core inflation, unemployment, and government deficits. It's a compendium of statistics. It was certainly the fastest growing major economy in Western Europe, beating out Germany, Britain, France, and Italy. The BBC recently put it this way: Spain's economy has become, quote, the envy of Europe. And as a great grandson of of a citizen of Madrid. The Fernandez name originates from Madrid. It used to stand for son of Fernando, translated into Fernandez. I'm very proud of Spain and their accomplishments. So I would like to congratulate Minister Cuerpo on the achievements of the whole Spanish economy and the country. A big burden and responsibility on your shoulders. So let me give you a little bit of bio information on him. Before starting his current job, he held 2 other senior positions within the same ministry. First, he served as Director General of Macroeconomic Analysis, where he led economic forecasting and research, a position that for sure trained him very well to his current job. He then became Secretary General of the Spanish Treasury, or Ministry of Finance, overseeing the country's public debt management in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic, while also representing Spain on the world stage, including the G20. Minister Cuerpo originally entered the civil service of Spain back in 2008, when he joined the Spanish Corps of State Economists. He has also worked for the European Commission in Brussels and for Spain's Independent Authority for Fiscal Responsibility. Minister Cuerpo received a doctorate in economics from the Autonomous University of Madrid, a master's degree from the London School of Economics, and a bachelor's degree in economics as well from the University of Extremadura. So it is a great honor and a privilege on behalf of the FPA to present you with the FPA medal.
So thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. Thank you, Michael, for the Twitter pause. Actually, it's a relief, I have to say, so thank you. It's actually also a good way for us to have a relatively peaceful night, really ranking high in the standards. And I won't disturb this piece by talking about NATO spending in defense or any other important issues. So I would like to start by thanking you. It's a true honor to receive this medal and to stand before you tonight. It's also, I'm also very proud to actually have been selected with my fellow medalists, both Faiza and Peter. It's an honor. We had a great discussion during dinner. But let me start by saying that it's actually the first prize that I get since I became a minister. And so the main question that I kept asking both my assistants and myself was basically, why? So what are the reasons that led to this honor? And to try and answer that question, I've tried to look back over the past year and a half, which is a time, as you said, Henry, that I've been in office, to try and be able to take stock of what we've been through and what we accomplished during this period. Interesting times, as you might say, to be a Minister of Economy and particularly Minister of Trade as well. So if I had to wrap it all in one word, I want it to be a positive word. I want it to be an optimistic word, so I would say opportunity. That would be the word, my word for tonight. And I mean opportunity in several dimensions, and let me try to break it down for you very, very rapidly. First, opportunity in terms of a chance for a renewed multilateralism. The current international landscape is challenging, to say the least. Concepts that we had taken for granted for decades, like multilateralism, an international rules-based order, free trade, are being called into question. We've had a pandemic, war is standing at Europe's doorstep, And in the Middle East, double-digit inflation figures, reconfiguration of supply chains, showcasing of international trade as a zero-sum game, things that we had never seen for many years, decades, or even a century. So this is all sketching out the geopolitical reality today, where uncertainty and volatility are becoming the new normal. All the while, structural challenges like climate change continue to push us to look for more sustainable ways of life. But as I said, I'm an optimist by nature. And I think despite these hurdles, we have a great opportunity to rebuild and perfect that system, reminding citizens and leaders, both in the public and the private sector, that cooperation always yields the best results. And to give you a specific example, let me just talk about what is coming up next week in Sevilla. It's the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development. We're expecting representatives from 110 countries, private institutions, NGOs, academia, to discuss how to best address debt vulnerabilities in the world's most vulnerable countries. Truth is that despite complexity, lingering threats of fragmentation and protectionism, what we want to see in Sevilla is actually the world running in an opposite direction. We want to see countries and institutions coming together as coalitions of the willing to put forward initiatives with a tangible impact in terms of debt relief. My takeaway already, even before the conference, has taken place as a commitment by most to strengthen, not weaken, the multilateral cooperation, to take action to be able to foster sustainable development across the globe. Let me go to the second element about opportunity. It's an opportunity at the global level, but also an opportunity for Europe, an opportunity for Spain within Europe specifically. 2 weeks ago, just 2 weeks ago, we were celebrating the 40th anniversary of Spain's accession to the EU. A bet for integration, a bet for cooperation that has actually unleashed a historic economic and social transformation in Spain and laid the foundations of our welfare state. I am, and Spain is, profoundly pro-European, and we share our core values, those that are present in the inception of the European projects, which are integration, unity, sustainability, and social welfare. We have an opportunity at this stage to uphold those values that make up the European, the Spanish DNA, and in many senses also the American DNA. And Spain is leading by example with an economic and social model that I like to call a balanced model. As you said, Henry, Spain has been outperforming its peers and is expected also in 2025 to be the fastest growing larger economy in the world. Not only 2024, we will repeat it in 2025. Booming external sector, moderate inflation, solid job creation, record foreign investment levels, and all the while guaranteeing fiscal responsibility. And this came all together with improving living conditions for our citizens, which should always remain the cornerstone of every policy decision. Let me turn now to the final dimension of opportunity, which actually goes down to a personal level. I have traveled to 19 different countries across 5 continents over the last year and a half. You were saying, Henry, before that you've been to more than 100. Just give me a couple more years and I might actually reach your target. But it's very comforting and actually encouraging to find that there is always common ground on which we can build a relationship. Whether it's a project on digitizing rural areas in Western Africa, in Senegal, whether it's a framework that makes the most of special drawing rights with the IMF and the World Bank, whether it's a bet for an offshore renewable center and station in Canada, underground energy facilities in Ukraine, or a new financial product to deepen our European capital markets. Let me just finalize by saying that I'm humbled by this opportunity to learn, to keep on growing, and to keep on contributing to make a difference. So thank you again very much for this recognition. And if I may ask for something, Henry, I want to be on that video next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Cuerpo, for your thoughtful remarks. You talked about living in interesting times, and it reminded me of a tweet I did see the other day. Somebody said you have to turn the old saying on its head, and if you are wishing somebody good, you say, may you live in uninteresting times, which I don't think anybody's going to get to do anytime soon, which just underscores the importance of the Foreign Policy Association. For our last presentation tonight, I would like to invite Rajiv Gupta, the Senior Advisor at New Mountain Capital, to the stage to introduce our third honoree, Peter Young, Chief Executive of Young & Partners.
Well, good evening, everyone. And these are hard acts to follow, but let me see if I do justice to my friend Peter here. So I'm Raj Gupta, as was mentioned, Senior Advisor at PE firm New Mountain Capital. I was very pleased when Peter asked me to introduce him this evening. I've known Peter for over 30 years, both as a personal friend as well as a professional level. Our relationship has spanned the periods when I was CEO at Roman Haas, a board member at companies such as DuPont, Tyco, Delphi Automotive, and Hewlett-Packard, and as a participant and a speaker at many events and activities that he has organized, either for his investment banking firm that serves life sciences and chemical companies around the world, as well as many nonprofit organizations that he has led. The Foreign Policy Association Medal, which is the highest honor bestowed by FPA, recognizes individuals who demonstrate responsible internationalism and work to expand public knowledge of international affairs. To start, Peter has been a role model of excellence as a first-generation Chinese American, son of a scholar who immigrated to this country, a graduate of Yale College and Harvard Business School, very successful career at Bain & Company, and leading investment banking firms such as Salomon Brothers and Lehman Brothers, and of course, as a founder of his own firm, Young & Company. In both his nonprofit and professional career, Peter has been heavily involved in creating better understanding of international business and economic practices and policies. For example, he's been head of programs and regularly president of Société de Chimie Industrielle, a leading nonprofit that for 107 years has focused on educating people on important policy, structural and industrial development in the US and internationally for the life science and chemical industry. More than 20 conferences and events each year that cover topics such as economic policies, sustainability, climate change, green chemistry, and innovations in the drug industry globally. The organization also provides research scholarships for students working on innovations in science. He has also done the same to the corporate strategy and investment banking work, forums and conferences that his firm, Young & Partners, has conducted for many years, including annual conferences that gather industry leaders to share ideas and to deal with geopolitical and economic issues facing the companies today. He has demonstrated that responsible internationalism as a board member and head of various programs for the Committee of 100, an organization founded 36 years ago by I.M. Pei and Yo-Yo Ma to promote understanding between the US and China and to defend the rights of Chinese Americans in this country. There are just few examples why I feel he is deserving recipient of the Foreign Policy Association Medal Award. His activities reach out to thousands of people each year, but more importantly, he is a civic-minded corporate leader with high standards of integrity and global perspective, traits that are greatly valued by his friends and colleagues. In closing, I just want to add one more fact. Only one other couple, other than Peter and Merritt, have been recipient of honors by FPFA. Guess who was the other one? Bill and Hillary Clinton. So, Peter, you are in great company, and congratulations on this recognition.
First of all, it's a real honor to be a recipient of the Foreign Policy Association Medal Award. I'm very, very thankful. I thought that was an interesting story about my wife, Mary Jano, getting the award, and then I'm getting it. And aptly, she got it first. So, we all know that the mission of the Foreign Policy Association has been for over 100 years to serve as a catalyst for developing awareness, understanding, and informed opinion on U.S. foreign policy and global issues. And through a balanced, nonpartisan programs and publications, they've encouraged citizens to participate in foreign policy process and has been a leader in expanding public knowledge of international affairs. That has always been important since the time the Foreign Policy Association was formed, and it continues to be important today. As Raj Gupta indicated, a great deal of my own personal energy, both professionally as an investment banker, a corporate strategist, and private equity investor, and in my involvement with a number of prominent nonprofit organizations, has either been directly or indirectly devoted to facilitating international understanding, transactions, and strategies. But I think the importance of knowledge and having an understanding of international affairs has always been paramount. But it's even more important today in a world of disinformation, isolation from facts, across borders and within borders, geopolitical misunderstanding, misjudgments, and diminished personal and cultural connections. In fact, when you think about it, and I happen to agree with the chairman who spoke before, we really have not been in a period where we've had so many disruptions and so many issues that have cropped up, which is very concerning to all of us. But I think that part of the problem is an issue of understanding, but of different cultures, different countries, and getting good information. And we all know that the diminishment of the media, the traditional media, and the prevalence of social media and so forth has contributed to misunderstanding and bad information about what's going on. So if you think of all the international tensions and military actions in recent history that have been caused in part by misinformation or misunderstanding between countries and their leaders, it's bad enough to have problems based on information. It's even worse to have problems based on lack of understanding and misinformation. I've known Noel for a long time, have a great deal of respect for him, and we've worked together to start to have a collaboration between the Foreign Policy Association and the Committee of 100 that I'm a member of, and there are very distinguished members of the Committee 100 at the table over there. For example, on March 5th, here at the Harvard Club, we organized an event for 70 people on the topic of diplomacy through culture. And that's a good example, right, of the importance of understanding along more than just the political and economic dimension. And that event featured 4 prominent members of the international art and music community, and that highlighted the history and the importance of culture as a driver of more peaceful relations and in geopolitical outreach. It was a real eye-opener, I think, for everyone who was there, and a reminder that international understanding at the political and the person-to-person levels has been a key contributor to responsible internationalism. To be honest, although I'm honored to receive this medal for responsible internationalism and the expansion of international affairs, my efforts as an individual and through the organizations I have been part of have been a really small drop in the ocean of the continuing energy and efforts by many individuals, such as the Foreign Policy Association and governments all around us. And I hope that the energy and the efforts continue to grow rapidly? And if so, we will be a better and more peaceful world if that happens. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Young. And I think all of our honorees tonight underscore one significant fact, and that is that at no time in history has the work of the Foreign Policy Association been more important. So we'd like to thank all of you for being here tonight. This concludes our formal program, but please feel free to continue your conversations and enjoy the evening here. One note I saw the other day that before all the panels were disassembled at the National Institutes for Health, there was a study that was going to come out that said dessert and wine at an evening like this has no calories. So enjoy. On behalf of the Foreign Policy Association, thank you for joining us tonight. It's been an honor to be your MC, and I look forward to many profitable years ahead for the FPA. Thank you.